All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be dramatic, but there was a little glitch in the stock market. And now, why I'm calling this a glitch, because no one could really explain what happened today. And this was a fairly large move considering what we've seen in the stock market the last 2 weeks. So I want to talk about this and what happened, and it's related to the events of everything that went on today. I'm going to recap some of the highlights that we saw today, what went down in the market. And then as far as the plays, we're coming into the wrapping up an awesome week. I'm posting the watch list at 9 or 7 p.m. Pacific. Sorry. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. Subscribe if you're new. Drop a thumbs up on the video if you like these videos. It helps, and make sure you guys, with YouTube and all that. And yeah, let me know if I missed anything covering this, but let's get into it. Today was the wrap up. No more Brexit. So no more Brexit. The FOMC. Today was the digestion, and it seemed pretty normal if we go and we look up, extended hours. It didn't make too big of a move. You could kind of say it was a slight gap up, but then it came down, started coming down right away. It started coming down right away, bounced up, held pretty steady. No, excuse me, that's after hours. No, is it? Why does it look so? That's a 1 day. That's yesterday. Excuse me, there you go. It came down, it held pretty steady, and then it came down out of nowhere. Now, nobody could talk about these events. We didn't know, so this is what I want to discuss, is what it could be linked to today and some of the other big moves we saw. So here you have United Health. You saw the same exact thing occur with UNH, ANTN, I think is Anthem. I'm going to give it a guess. I think ANTM. I'm always wrong on it, but Anthem, Humana, and these are some plays you could watch tomorrow, but even the biotechs in general, or even the IBB. So even the IBB, that's just the overall ETF of the biotechs, but those dropped, and they kind of led the way, and it looks like when you overlay them, it looks like the SPY caught up to it. But then at the same respect, we have the futures. Here's oil. So today in the morning, oil did something similar. It had a big drop. Nothing really reacted. And then when that big drop came out of nowhere, this came out. So some people you could blame it on ECB, oil. Some people said other comments. But in all reality, there was no real news events that was around it. And actually 3 minutes prior, and this is something I've talked about, is the European close. So you guys could see sometimes it does have an effect. It could be Europeans taking some risk off the table or certain things based after the events. But again, things are digesting. But now we're coming into earnings. And someone even asked me, like, all right, so what's the crash scenario then? What's the worst case? Really, unless we get negative trade talks, the EU thing develops, the EU trade becomes negative, we could see something negative come out of that. But otherwise, unless there's really liquidity, a real issue that sparks a liquidity issue. And now this is what I was going to talk about here with this, because that was even related to market makers. I read something the other day I thought was pretty interesting, but it's highlighting the fact that there's market makers and then these algos that are there to add to liquidity. So meaning they're just exasperating the move. So as long as there's liquidity and buyers and sellers in the market, they're adding to it with these automatic programs, helping the market makers job, the basic computers, right? They're there to just offer, buy, they're willing to buy and sell to facilitate orderly trading and literally create a market where people could come to. So this is what we could see. Some people are talking about emerging market, some emerging market indicators, and we're going to get China. I think China's export numbers tonight, but some people are pointing at pretty negative signals for emerging market data coming out. And, if they're looking for a volatility event, that's what this would kind of look like. That's why I'm highlighting this here, because if you do see a drop, anything bigger than that would have been very serious. But this was a pretty big drop for no reason. And again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's natural, it's this and that. But you really put it on the chart. I mean, it's hard to see a small time frame drop that big. And again, velocity of these moves is important. And again, that's the 30-minute candles you could kind of see. And on the 60-minute, it's not as big. However, at the time, a majority of the move came in 3 minutes and not 60. So that is, in retrospect, it's kind of hard to see, but we were going over it live on stream. And again, we're live Monday through Friday, so we better see you on the stream. Shout out the chat. But that was an interesting play, So this is what happened. I know you guys could watch out and try to understand liquidity and some of that stuff and how it plays into the market. But this is now why I brought that up, is related to earnings, because buybacks is going to eliminate some liquidity from the market, the buyback blackout. But now these computers are pretty much just going to trade all the way up till what people are pricing the earnings. We are going to get the bank earnings tomorrow morning, so watch out for those. Those could have a slight effect. I'm not forecasting that they're going to have a big effect. Again, all the banks are very tricky when it comes to earnings. And if you guys, these analysts, these guys are some of the brightest minds in the world analyzing all the intense segments of the banks, but they're not expected to move much. It is a value stock when investors are investing in there. So there's not supposed to be anything to surprise. What could surprise tomorrow from the bank stocks is if we see how they responded to these initial reports, how some of these banks responded to the first inversion of the curve, and then we could go from there and start to make assumptions. But there was that. We saw Apple make a move today, kind of, but realistically, I know Qualcomm kept dropping, and the chip makers, they were all over the place, but I was surprised to watch Apple do that. So keep your eyes out on Apple and Facebook. Again, make sure you're here for the watch list. And then lastly, right at close, Boeing, this was an interesting move, but this contributed to the Dow, and I believe transports actually went up, and the small caps, they were a leader today, then they kind of turned to the middle. And again, tech was the lagger. The S&P didn't do that bad, and you guys could see the value stocks. Maybe Boeing, I'll explain here real quick, and I'll show you the last thing I want to touch on. But Boeing, it moved on some software updates, or that they did. First, it was announced a software update type thing, something the CEO said. And then 5 to 10 minutes later, they announced 37 or 97 test flights completed. And that sent the stock up. So I said watch the velocity. Some people are calling for a breakout tomorrow or a gap up. We will see again. I'll talk about that on the watch list. But that did have an effect at the market there at close. We got that 12:30 ramp as usual. So it put us right back in the middle. And it's interesting. Again, the last part of this move, there's two more things now. Notice how tight the ranges have been. And somebody posted the last 9 weeks, we've been in a 1.9% range on the S&P. So that's interesting. But these ranges, I think from top to bottom on the SPY, it's 288.80 to 288.25. It's about 50 points, half a point. After this big drop, you notice it really set up until power hour. It still set us a range of 288.20 to 287.60. So it's about 0.6 of a point there on the S&P. So again, it held the same tight range, which was interesting after that happened. So pay attention to that. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Watch for some of that China data tonight and any of the other stuff coming into the weekend. If there is any developments, we did see South Korea trade deal. That could be positive, but watch out. There has been positive trade talks. We'll see what could boost the market up, if it's going to be a gap up or down. Maybe you guys should let me know, actually. That's what I want from you in the comments. Do you think it's going to gap up or down? What do you think it's going to play out for tomorrow in the morning, where it's going to close, and where do you think is going to lead us up to the end of the weekend earnings? So I'm going to leave it there, you guys. I love you. This was fun day today. I better see you on the chat. That was so exciting. So be there in the morning, 30 minutes before open. Drop a like and subscribe. Let's go.